Hello and welcome to another in New Game Plus, a series of serious business where we look at serious issues concerning gamers. Now, I know a lot of indie developers watch our show, and anybody else that's watching the show that has a dream of one day becoming a game developer will be interested in. Today I'm talking to Victor, an IP lawyer from Markwell. Hello Victor, thanks for joining us.
G'day Jared, thanks very much.
No worries. Now look, let's start with a game. Now there's been a few issues over the last few years, high profile trademark disputes and things like that. When we're talking copyright with respect to a game, how does that work? What's that actually mean?
Yeah, it's a really good question because copyright in games in particular is actually a really broad, really big topic. There's no such thing as copyright in a game as a whole, but a game has so many different elements that have copyright protection over them, that, or capable of copyright protection, that actually it's quite a IP-rich sort of subject. So in a game, you've got the code, obviously, which is protected by copyright as a piece of writing. You've got the artwork. So if there's characters that have you've had graphic artists create, there's artwork which is separately protected as a work of art. Then you've got things like music, and in music you have copyright in the lyrics, separate to the copyright in the composition, separate to the copyright in the actual recording of the music. And on top of all of that, you've also got things like copyright in when the game's actually viewed. That might be copyright in a film. So in this one thing which you call a game, there's all these multiple sort of copyrights sitting there, which developers need to be aware of.
So if I've decided, say hypothetically, myself and my friends have got this great idea, we're going to make millions of dollars, we've got an indie game idea, maybe it's a chicken crossing a road sort of thing or something, or a bird jumping between pylons. Now, obviously everybody starts out happy and all friendly and that, but sometimes things do go astray, and there's been recently a high profile accusation of somebody using a code or an idea. Now, can I copyright an idea or a concept for a game if I've come up with a great idea?
The strict legal answer is no. You can't protect an idea. So there's it's the long history of IP. It's a founding principle that you can't protect an idea because people should be able to go out and be novel and inventive and take an idea and sort of do different things with it. So you can't protect the idea of a game or the concept of a game. You can protect the game or the elements of the game once it's actually been created.
So the look and feel of the game, how it works, how the controls work, that sort of thing?
Well, to a degree, it's more the things like copyright looks at, is a sort of hard IP that looks at, is it a written work, is it an artwork, is it code which is written work as well. The look and feel in terms of artwork, it could be, but you can to some degree protect an idea or a concept through things such as an NDA, a confidentiality agreement. So in effect, where IP falls over and says you can't protect this idea or this great concept you've got, but you don't want to go and talk to someone and then possibly lose that idea to someone else, the way to deal with it is to create rights, I guess, where IP says you don't have rights. You create rights through contract by agreeing with someone that I'm going to share this idea with you, but you can't take it
and make it yourself.
Make it yourself.
Because one of the fears would be, and you see it a lot, you've come up with this great idea, you've made a game, and look, Candy Crush is a big one for this in the Windows Store. There's a lot of other Candy Crushes. Flappy Bird, there's a heap of Flappy Bird clones. I don't think that matters too much though. Crossy Road already has a clone on the Windows App Store. And not an official version. Now, if that sort of stuff happens, I've made my game, I've put it onto iOS or Android or both, and suddenly there's copies everywhere. Is that just one of those things that's really difficult to address afterwards?
Yeah, it can be difficult because again, there's that argument that sure you had the original concept, and you created a game out of it, but other people might have the same concept. They're not complex games in terms of gameplay. Yeah. So if they haven't copied the images, if they haven't copied the code, then there's probably no copyright infringement. Now, the practical things you can do is to get there first, obviously.
Get on the other app stores.
Get on the other app stores.
Developers get in the other app stores. Don't ignore.
Even though they've got small market share, if it's business, you want to be on there.
Yeah. But it's your money or somebody else's.
That's right.
Gets it, yeah. So, no, fair enough. Now, with so it sounds like a bit of a minefield with trying to protect your stuff, and it actually sounds a bit like you kind of can't in a way. If a group of developers is going to start out, now it's like getting married. Nobody wants to turn up to their new partner with a prenup because you look like a prick. But realistically, if you've got a bunch of friends, they're working on a game, things never go smooth. What should people do?
Yeah, that's a really good comparison, I think, because I'm sure there's lots of people who entered into marriage and said, we don't want a prenup because that's kind of a bit strange.
Oh, we love each other.
That's right. And then, now. And then at the end of the day, it gets even more complicated. So I think, if you're getting together with a bunch of friends, you need to take that lesson. Not going to get married with them, but you've got to take that lesson and say, well, let's agree now how we're going to work together. And you don't need to run off and see a lawyer straight away. It may be a good idea. Ultimately, if you're viewing it as a business, if you're in this as a business, then you should probably treat it as such. But really simple things. So there's a group of you wanting to do something together. Agree on how things are going to work, and the three things I usually say to think about is what happens with the money. How does money in, money out? How does all that work?
I don't think they make a lot of that.
And then if they do, that's when you might find that agreements might help them at the start. The second thing to think about is rights as well. Who owns what, or is it jointly owned? Can be a minefield. Or how is it jointly owned? And then the third thing is, and what happens if you want that divorce? What happens if you want to break up? What if I don't want to do this anymore? Or what if you don't want me to do this anymore? How do we work out the exit? And those three things really is where you'll find most disagreements or most complexities arise. Is how does the money work? Who owns what? And what happens now that we want to separate?
And it's not fun, but something
it's not fun, but something that you probably need to work out at the start. And it's not necessarily a 300-page contract that everyone has to get independent legal advice on. But you break it down to the basics. What do you want to happen, guys?
So there's a lot to. So the idea of just sitting in a garage or a room in a house somewhere and just hacking away at a wonderful new game that's going to change the world seems a little bit more complex than just a couple of programmers or a designer and a music person or friends. Bit of advice need to be got?
Look, I think it is complex, and it is important, I think, to know a little bit about that complexity. I think it's great for people to collaborate and get together and work on stuff together. I'm not suggesting that everyone should go out and get hire a lawyer every time they have a great idea for a game, but I think it's
not cheap.
It certainly is really useful to have some of that knowledge yourself, and from there you're just aware of stuff. Often I say to people, the most important thing is not necessarily really locking down all your IP. It is important if you want to sort of commercialise. But at the early stages, just being IP aware, being aware of copyright, being aware of trademarks. Can I use this name? Can't I use this name?
And what happens if things go wrong?
That's right. Can I use this piece of music that I found off the internet or not? Being aware of
probably not.
Probably not. Being aware of that sort of stuff is really important. Even if you're just sitting in your garage, coding away.
Cool. Oh, well, thank you very much, Victor. Now, that's for anybody who wants to make a game. There's professional organisations like the IGDA that can probably also help out a lot with that. But be aware, you've got your idea for your game. There's a lot to consider. We don't want to discourage it because we need a lot more game developers. That makes a lot of wide, diverse range of games, a lot of creativity. Get stuck into it, but be aware there's a few things you might have to look out for.